This is Talk the Home of Common Sense, coming up to 12:51. Let's talk about the small matter of the economy, because we touched on this yesterday. But while we've got, state visits and we've got, migration issues, there's still the matter of us being able to afford to pay our rent, our mortgage, buy food and pay the electricity and the gas bills. And certainly with the weather we've got now, we're going to be heading into that territory pretty soon when it comes to the heating bill going on. Well, this week, the Office of Budget Responsibility apparently told Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, that things aren't looking very good on the productivity front. So what does that mean for us when it comes to what's going to happen at the next budget to be announced on November the 26th? Let's talk to the Director of Popular Conservatism. That's Mark Littlewood. Afternoon to you, Mark.
Hi, Julia. Good to be with you.
Thank you very much for joining us. So we keep being told, the latest headline, starmer could be blown off course by OBR productivity bombshell. I mean, it seems to me there's bombshell after bombshell after bombshell of bad economic news. What is the productivity issue?
So productivity is a measure of how much we produce per hour, not our total output, but per hour. Are we producing more or less than we were last year? And if you can get your productivity up, I don't know if you're making widgets and suddenly next year you can make 10% more widgets in each hour that you put in, your productivity's gone up 10%. Big problem in the UK. Productivity has flatlined for a long while now. I mean, this predates this Labour government. So we're not getting better at doing things. And that's really the driving force behind growth in an economy. OK, you can work harder. You can decide you're going to work 70 hours a week, 80 hours a week, 90 hours a week. That will produce more output. But the magic ingredient is to work smarter, not harder.
Produce more from less. And there are other countries, and we know America's got much higher productivity, but we apparently have lower productivity than countries. OK, yeah, Germany, fair enough. But than France. I've never really got to grips with that.
Yes, well, I mean,
I've been to France.
I mean, you've got to be a bit careful about these numbers because it measures people in work and it measures your work per hour. So if you've got a large number of people who aren't working at all and a number of people who are in work and becoming slightly more productive in their 25 hours a week, I exaggerate for effect, your productivity is looking good.
Right.
The French are quite good at that. They in general, in their workforce, squeeze out more per hour than we do.
If you don't allow for the 2 or 3 hour lunch break in the middle. But there we are. Well, that's the thing. OK, but we know productivity in the private sector has been much better than in the public sector. I saw an extraordinary graph showing, going up, and certainly in the wake of the technology in the private sector, it sort of goes up like that in the private sector. But of course, America, it's doing that. I'll go way up. But in the public sector, it's virtually flatlined for 20 years. And yet we've had so much technology which should make people more productive, whether you're assessing how many migrants are legitimate asylum seekers or doing the bureaucracy in the NHS or any other aspect, or getting passport, anything that the public sector does. You'd have thought that the technology we've now got, everything going online, would have improved productivity.
That's exactly right. It's not just the bureaucracy, Julia. I mean, it's, basically, year on year or certainly decade on decade, we should be getting better at cancer treatment. We should be getting better at heart bypass operations. We should be getting better at physiotherapy. It's the whole lot. And where we've got things, I think, the wrong way round is that public sector workers whose productivity has not improved, at least in aggregate, have typically been rewarded with enhanced pay. Now, if you're in the private sector, even if you're a busy bee and a decent worker yourself, if your company isn't becoming more productive per head, good luck trying to get any kind of meaningful pay rises. Yeah. So we've got to really tag pay in the public sector to productivity, give them the incentive to improve that productivity. And unfortunately, we haven't. They might be working hard, but they're not working smart. And therefore, big public sector pay rises is essentially a reward for failure.
Well, indeed. And again, there's a couple of other interesting stories about people on benefits. And we've got young graduates. Ministers have been urged not to give up on welfare reform. I mean, there's going to be no welfare reform under this government. We know that. They were going to reform 5 billion quid's worth of it. It's a drop in the ocean. It's money down the back of the sofa in terms of what we're spending. But basically got a system where a new graduate, someone's worked really hard, got good A-levels, got a good degree, they can end up taking home less than someone on sickness benefits. No wonder a lot of them end up on sickness benefits. But also the extraordinary situation where we had a BBC programme, a guest on Radio 4, talking about out-of-work benefits, which are up nearly 80%. They've grown nearly 80% in just a few years, and saying since 2018, and saying that they were up a small amount. I mean, no wonder a lot of people in that world don't think there's a problem if they don't even accept that an 80% increase in the number of people on benefits is not a large amount.
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, the welfare system is now out of control, and we're seeing, I think, what any economist would expect to see. If you pay more and more people to do less and less work, more and more people will do less and less work. We should be unsurprised by this. And we can, wring our hands and say how terrible it is that a young graduate, perhaps getting their first job, doesn't get as high a salary as they might get in welfare benefits if they simply signed off sick. But in the private sector, a smart company will only pay you for the productivity you produce. If you can produce for the company £25,000 a year of output, they'll happily pay you up to £25,000 a year.
But not more.
They ain't going to pay you 30, 40, £50,000 a year if your output doesn't match that. That's a route to going bust as a company. So the issue here isn't so much dialing up pay. In a proper functioning market economy, your pay should reflect the output that you're giving. It's cutting welfare.
Just finally, very briefly, say very briefly, got a budget coming up in November. Given how bad all the numbers are in every direction, growth, inflation, unemployment, productivity, how bad is it going to be for me and my audience and you in the pocket?
It's going to be pretty bad because Labour's run out of ideas or doesn't have the political will to get through the reforms that are necessary. We've basically got to reduce spending, right? And there is no will at all.
So the taxes are going to go up.
So they're going to try and put taxes up. But then there's a problem there as well, that our taxes are probably so high that if you dial up the rates, you won't necessarily get in more revenue. Look what they've done to the non-doms. Oh, here's an easy cash cow. What have we seen? Millionaires fleeing the country like there's no tomorrow.
At the end of the day,
try and reach for the tax lever, but it will not work. It will just cause more.
And it's going to be those ordinary working families who end up paying it all because they're the only people who can't leave. Mark Littlewood from Popular Conservatism, thank you so much indeed for that on that happy note. Benjamin Butterworth, I mean, we are, productivity, inflation, unemployment, everything. There are no figures going in the right direction. The things we want to go up are going down or flatline, and the things we want to go down are going up.
And after the repeated sort of resignations, Keir Starmer's position is a lot weaker. I was talking to a Labour MP the other day.
Why would you do that? No, sorry.
No. But I was talking to a Labour MP the other day that said, I'm not sure Keir Starmer will make it to the budget. No. And if the budget does what it has to do, which is be rather unpleasant, then I'd be surprised if Keir Starmer survives after that.
Well, no,
I was quite amazed.
Rachel Reeves doesn't survive to another budget after this one. I think Keir Starmer, big question mark for after the next May election, Scotland, Wales, and indeed lots of local elections in London and elsewhere. It's going to be absolutely fascinating to watch. But at the end of the day, talking about ordinary people struggling to pay their bills. Talking of ordinary people struggling, Ian Collins is here.
All right, precious.
All right, darling. Go on, Governor.
We're talking about a special relationship. Some are saying, well, yeah, it's a special relationship, but actually we're better served with the EU. I know Benjamin probably thinks that. But after what we saw last night, it was tremendous how this whole thing has
We do that stuff very well. I mean, it looks boring as hell. Let's be honest.
If you were at the banquet,
I would rather kill myself than sit at one of those banquets.
But if you were at the very end, because the very end is like you're in another postcode, frankly, aren't you? So, I mean, you're not going to see very much. You've got kind of theatre binoculars, sort of checking to see what's happening. We're looking at that. This Indian fella that's been deported, which I feel
one in, one out.
One bloke,
one out.
and he's not even on the list of countries where people come from.
I know, it's ridiculous.